Welcome dear student in the second chapter of history, that is Historiography, Indian Tradition. Children, before we begin the chapter, let us understand the learning objectives of the given chapter. In this chapter, we are going to study traditions of Indian historiography. In that, the points we are going to cover today, that is historiography in the ancient period, historiography in the medieval period, and historiography in the modern period. So children, let's begin the chapter. Children, in the previous lesson, you all have learnt about the Western tradition of historiography. In this lesson, we are going to study the tradition of Indian historiography. Historiography in the ancient period. During the ancient period in India, memories of the great deeds of ancestors and mythological lore, also the memories of the social transactions, were preserved with the help of the oral sources. The inscriptions on the Harappan seals and other artifacts confirm that India has mastered the art of writing as early as in the 3rd millennium BCE. However, the Harappan script is not yet successfully deciphered. The word deciphered means it has not been yet converted into the normal language. The earliest written documents of historical nature found in India are in the forms of inscriptions. They are dated to the 3rd century BCE, that is, Emperor Ashoka's Maurya's time. His edicts are inscribed on natural rocks and stone pillars. The edicts of Ashoka are a collection of more than 30 inscriptions on the pillars, as well as on the cave walls, attributed to Emperor Ashoka of the Mauryan Empire, who reigned from 268 BCE to 232 BCE. Ashoka used the expression Dhamma to describe his own edicts. From the 1st century CE, inscriptions began to occur on coins, metal images, sculptures, and also on the copper plates. They provide important historical information. We get to know about the dates of various kings, dynastic genealogies, territorial extent, and administration of various empires and kingdoms, and also important political events, social organizations, climate, etc. of the respective period. The ancient Indian literature, including the epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata, Puranas, Jain and Buddhist texts, historical accounts by Indian authors, and also travel logs by foreign travelers, such as Megasthenes, the ambassador of Seleucus Nicator, was the first foreign traveler to India. India has witnessed the visit of great foreign envoys like Al-Masudi, Yuan Sang, Al-Biruni, Ibn Battuta, Marco Polo, and many more, who were the important sources of the Indian history. Writing of biographies of kings and dynastic histories mark an important step in the Indian historiography. Harsha Charitra, written in the 7th century CE by Banabhatta, is the King Harsha's biography. It portrays a realistic picture of the social, economic, political, religious, and cultural life during his period. Children, do you know the Sahagura copper plate? The Sahagura copper plate inscription is an Indian copper plate inscription which was found in the 3rd century BCE. It was written in Prakrit in the Brahmi script. It was discovered in Sahagura, a village on the bank of river Rapti, which was about 20 kilometers to the southeast of Gorakhpur, that is in Uttar Pradesh. The symbol known as tree in railing and mountain at the beginning of the inscription also occurred on punched mark coins. Another symbol which looks like structure erected on four pillars is supposed to be indicative of granary. The inscription record a royal order that the grain stored in the granary should be distributed carefully. It is supposed to be suggestive of precautions taken in the time of famine. Children, let us move further, that is historiography in the medieval period. The style of writing Raj Tarangini, the history of Kashmir by Kalhana in the 12th century CE is quite close to the concept of modern historiography. Kalhana himself says that he wrote this text after critically examining various sources like inscriptions, coins, remains of ancient monuments, dynastic record, and local traditions. In the medieval India, the historians in the court of Muslim rulers were influenced by Arabic and the Persian historiography. Among them, Zayuddin Barani holds an important place. In Tarikh-e-Firoz Shahi, a book written by him, in that he has stated the purpose of historiography. According to him, the historian's duty is not limited only to recording the ruler's valor and policies of the welfare, but he should also write about the failures of the king and incorrect policy used by the king. Barani further stated that a historian should also take into the consideration the impact of teachings of the wise, the learned, and the saints on the cultural life of the people. Thus, Barani expanded the scope of historiography. For the historians in the Mughal court, praising the emperors and exhibition of loyalty became more important. The customs of adding suitable poetic quotes and beautiful pictures was also introduced. Babur, the founder of Mughal Empire, wrote an autobiography entitled Tuzuk-e-Baburi. It contains a description of the battle fought by him. Babur also recorded his minute observation of various regions and cities travelled by him, including the local economic, customs, and the flora. Akbarnama by Abul Fazl is a very important viewpoint of critical historiography. His method of collecting authentic historical documents and their scrutiny is looked upon as devoid of bias and hence realistic. The word scrutiny means critical observation or examination, whereas the word devoid means free from. Bakhar. Bakhar is a form of historical narrative written in Marathi prose. It is one of the earliest genera of medieval Marathi literature. Bakhar is an important type of historical document of medieval times. It contains eulogies of heroes and stories of historic events, battles, life of great men. Marathi Bakhars are of various types. Sabhasad Bakhar was written by Krishnaji Anand Sabhasad during the regime of Chhatrapati Rajaram Maharaj. It was an important Bakhar for getting information about the rule of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. Bhahu Sahebanchi Bakhar describes the Battle of Panipat. Another Bakhar, entitled Panipatanchi Bakhar, is also about the same event. Holkaranchi Hafiyat provide information about Holkars and their contribution to the Maratha rule. Bakhars can be divided into various types such as biographies of king, dynastic history, descriptions of events, history of sets, autobiography regarding grievances based on the mythologies, and state administration by a king. Do you know? Al-Biruni wrote in Arabic tells about the Indian knowledge and social life. In the following period, many books about India were written by foreign scholars. Among them, the few names are Hasan Nizami's Tizul Masir. Hasan Nizami was a Persian language poet and historian who lived in the 12th and the 13th century. He migrated from Nishanpur to Delhi in India, where he wrote Tizul Masir, the first official history of the Delhi Sultanate. Minhaj Siraj Tabaqat-e Nasri. Tabaqat-e Nasri is a medieval text by Minhaj Siraj. It is an important source book for the reconstruction of the history of the foundation of Mughal rule in Bengal. The history of the first 50 years of Muslim rule in Bengal is found only in this text. Amir Khusro. The real name of Amir Khusro was Abul Hasan Yamuddin Khusro. He was a Sufi singer, poet, scholar from Indian subcontinent. He was also referred as Voice of India or Parrot of India. He has been called as the father of Urdu literature. Tuzuke Taimuri, an autobiography of Taimur, who is also known as Amir Taimur, who invaded India. Tarikh-e-Mubarak Shahi by Yahya bin Ahmed Shrihandi. Their accounts provide us with the historical information of the Sultanate period. Account of the foreign travelers in India. Account of the foreign travelers in India are also very important. Among them the few are Ibn Battuta. Ibn Battuta was a Muslim scholar and explorer who widely traveled the medieval world over the period of 30 years. He visited most of the Islamic world and many non-Muslim lands including Central Asia, Southeast Asia, India and China. The next name that we have, that is Abdul Razak. Abdul Razak was a Persian scholar who visited the Vijayanagar kingdom at the time of Devraya II. He is an ambassador of Shah Rukh, the Timurid dynasty ruler of Persia. Nicola di Conti. Nicola di Conti is an Italian merchant, explorer and writer who traveled to India and Southeast Asia and possibly to the southern China during the early of 15th century. Marco Polo. Marco Polo was an Italic merchant, explorer and writer who traveled Asia through the Silk Route between the year 1271 and the year 1295. Duarte Barbosa. Duarte Barbosa is a Portuguese writer and officer from Portuguese. He wrote the book Duarte Barbosa in the year 1516, making it one of the earliest examples of Portuguese travel literature. He was an interpreter of local language Malayalam. Domingo Paes. Domingo Paes was a Portuguese traveler who visited to Vijayanagar Empire located in the Deccan of southern India in the year 1520. He went there as a part of a group of traders from the colony of Goa. Their accounts provide us with the historical information of the medieval India. Ishwar Das Nagar, Bhimsen Saxena, Khafi Khan and Nicholas were among the historians of Aurangzeb's time, whose accounts are important sources of Mughal history. Children, let us move to the another topic, that is historiography in the modern period. In the 20th century, the Indian archaeological exploration and the research started under the British rule. A number of ancient sites were excavated under the supervision of Sir Alexander Cunningham, the first Director General of Archaeological Survey of India. He chose mainly the sites mentioned in the Buddhist text for this purpose. Harappan civilization was discovered during the tenure of Sir Marshal John. Because of this discovery, the antiquity of Indian history could be traced to the 3rd millennium BCE or even earlier. British historians who wrote about the Indian history. So they are James Grondorf, James Mill, William Wilson Hunter, and Colonel Todd. So let us understand their contribution in the Indian history. Many British officers in India wrote about Indian history. Their writings display some important of the colonial policies of the British. 3 volumes of The History of British India, written by James Mill, were published in the year 1870. This was the first book on Indian history written by a British historian. It clearly reflects an absence of objective perspective and prejudice about the various aspects of Indian culture. The History of India, written by Mount Stuart Elphinstone, Governor of Bombay, was published in the year 1841. The period of the Maratha Empire is very important in the Indian history. Grand Draft's name stands out amongst the British officers who wrote about Maratha history. He wrote the book entitled A History of Marathas. This book is published in the 3 volumes. Grand Draft's writing also shows the British inclination of condemning Indian culture and history. Similar tendencies is witnessed in Colonel Todd's writing about Rajasthan's history. The 2 volumes written by William Wilson Hunter in the Indian history shows somewhat impartial treatment of the subject. Neelkant Janardhan Kirtane and Vishwanath Kashinath Rajwade were 2 Indian historians who took upon the task of exposing the limitations of Grand Dobbs' writing. Children, let us see the dates and the events in the given module. In the 1st century CE, inscriptions began to appear on the metals, coins, sculptures, and on the copper plates. In the 3rd century BCE, the earliest known written document of historical nature during Emperor Ashoka Maurya's time. In the 3rd millennium BCE, Indians mastered the art of writing. In the 7th century CE, Harsha Charitra, Harsha's biography written by Banabhatta. In the 12th century CE, Raj Tarangini, the history of Kashmir, which was written by Kalhana. In the 20th century, Indian archaeological exploration and research began under the British rule. In 1817 CE, 3 volumes of The History of British India were published by James Mill. In the year 1841 CE, The History of India by Mount Stuart Elphinstone was written. Children, let us come to the evaluation segment of the given module. So, the question number 1 we have, complete the following table with the names of the writer and the books written by them. So, children, for solving this question, you have to watch the video carefully and you have to write the answers. Let's come to the next question. Explain the following. First one, Vakhar is an important type of historical document of medieval time. Next one, the antiquity of the Indian history could be traced to the 3rd millennium BCE. So children, for the following answers, kindly watch the video and read the textbook thoroughly for the answers. Children, in this module, we have studied about the tradition of Indian historiography. In the next module, that is in the second module, we will be studying about the Indian historiography and its various ideological framework. Children, to understand the lesson better, that is Module 1, kindly read the textbook thoroughly. We will meet again soon in the next module. Till then, enjoy learning.